Hello and welcome to the third class, the third video in Guided Imagery Specialist Training. You're almost there. A lot of what we're going to be doing today is getting you set up for the certifications. If that's what you choose to do, going through those steps, what you need to do to teach your class, things like that. But before that, we will go over creating a metaphorical journey. So creating a metaphorical journey for children is such a powerful tool for you as a yoga teacher, practitioner, therapist to use, because yes, there are a lot of scripts out there for guided imagery, but they might not adequately address something that your particular child that you're working with is going through. And creating this metaphorical journey is really something that's for one-on-one with a child or adult, if you want to do it with an adult too. But very powerful, something good to add to your practice in being a guide imagery specialist. If you want to follow along in the book, I go over creating new meditations, creating these metaphorical journeys in chapter 12. And the name of the chapter is called Creating New Meditations. And the steps for this process begin on page 141, right in the beginning of the chapter there, under the section Creating Metaphorical Journeys. So the first thing you want to do is interview the child, essentially. We need to gather some information from the child to understand what the challenge is that that child is going through, in addition to what they really relate to. And I do that by asking them about their favorite TV show or their favorite book or their favorite video game. And that can help me create this metaphorical journey for them, bringing them into a world that they really love and relate to. So the first step, talk to your child about the issue. Ask him questions until you have a good understanding of the problem and its causes. So, what are the feelings that are coming up when they are triggered by whatever this issue is? What does it make you want to do? Does it pull you to want to take certain actions, like to get angry and maybe yell at someone, or to actually physically lash out? We want to try to get an idea of that. And then find out what the child thinks needs to happen to solve the problem and focus on the visual description that you gave in the first step. So what I mean by that, I'm reading the second step here, is guided imagery. We need to find out from the child, what does that uncomfortable feeling look like? Does it have a color? Does it have a shape? Is it some type of object? What does that object look like? What is the texture? And what is the size? So that's kind of a tricky part, because you're talking about this real life stuff, and then you need to kind of switch gears and get into the symbolic world, really. What symbolizes this this feeling that's coming up for you? And I have a video coming up where I am interviewing a child, so you can see how I do that. But basically asking questions like, if it had a color, what color would it be? If it had a shape, what shape would it be? Is there any type of object that shows you what this feeling feels like? So those are some questions that can help you with that step. And in this next step, what you want to do is find out from them what needs to happen to make everything better. It doesn't have to be our job to say that, say it's a prickly ball, a red prickly ball is what represents that anger that's coming up for them. And it doesn't need to be us saying that red prickly ball needs to turn into a nice white cloud. We need to actually get that from the child. And so we ask the child directly, what needs to happen to that red prickly ball for you to feel better, for the situation to get better. And that they actually answer that pretty easily. Well, that ball needs to turn into a yellow balloon. You never know what they're going to say. But all the while we're asking these questions, it's good to take notes, jot everything down, so when we're leading them through the guided imagery experience, we can refer back to these specifics. We're going to lead them through to actually visualize what they're sharing with us. The next step, ask questions to learn your child's interests and what he relates to. For example, ask questions about a TV show, a movie, a hobby, storybook, a sport. These days, the kids really are into video games, so that comes up a lot, and it actually comes up in the video that I'm going to share with you. The little girl, she tells me about one of her favorite video games. So on this step, what we want to do is understand, number one, the parameters of the story or the game. For example, the parameters of Superman, the child might explain is, Superman has all these powers, but when he is around kryptonite, those powers go away. Okay, so those kind of things we want to learn. We also want to learn what is it that moves this child about this video game or about this TV show. What do they relate to? So this is where we really start to get, like, is it action, big time action, or is it creativity that the reason that they are drawn to this video game? Is it an intellectual puzzle? Are they into puzzles, figuring out puzzles? And what we really need to do at this step is, if we know about this video game or we know about the TV show, we need to let all of what we know about it aside, because we really want to learn it through the eyes of the child, because it's not really so much what the game or the show is about, but it's about what the child gets out of it. So you'll see me ask a lot of questions trying to understand what this child sees in this game and gets out of this game that she likes to play. And so in the book, if you're following along the book, I also have another example in the book with a dialogue between myself and another child, which is actually taken straight from a child that I worked with years ago. Number 4, the next step, let your imagination run wild. Think up a story through which to guide your child and play upon the motifs in his favorite movie or video game or whatever. So this might seem like the trickiest step, and you might want to take a little time and sit down and write out a script, or if you want to make it up off the cuff like I usually do, you can try at that as well. So for the certification, you actually do need to do this process. You do need to create a metaphorical journey for someone. It doesn't have to be a child. It's great if it is. It can be an adult, and it doesn't have to be somebody that you're physically with. So if you have a sister that lives in a state far away, you can do this over the phone, the interview over the phone, or even over email or text. And then when you actually guide the person through the experience, you could do that over FaceTime or over the phone. You can definitely do that. You don't need to video any of this for your certification. That's something else. That's the class that you're going to teach. But you will need to journal about it and share with me how it went, what was really successful, what you came up with as some challenges, and things like that. And when you're putting together this script, this guided imagery experience, go ahead and follow these key points to make sure that you include everything you need to include. Create a scene with your child's favorite characters or other interests. Lead your child to experience the problem. And I'll be honest, when I do this, I flip these 2 steps. I might first lead the child to experience the problem and then go into creating that scene that they really relate to. So either one. but they eventually want to get into that scene. Whether they're being part of the video game or characters from the video game come into their regular life. And then you want to guide them to visualize their emotions, so we get in touch with what they're feeling, and incorporate your child's solutions. So some part of the guided imagery should be them experiencing that symbolic color, object, shape, transform into that new color, that new shape that represents them feeling better. And that's where a lot of the healing takes place. And leave them in a comfortable place. So this might seem a little bit abstract at this point, since you haven't done this yet and you haven't seen me demonstrate it, but I promise you it will all come together. So let's go ahead and watch this video of me having an interview with a 9-year-old little girl. I'm gathering the information that I need to create this metaphorical journey for her. Okay. All right, so tell me about those boundaries. What are the boundaries that you try to set with him?
I don't like when he touches my bed, or if he puts something on my bed. I don't really like it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so he gets on your bed and then he puts things on your bed?
Sometimes he'll do that. Sometimes he'll put stuff on my bed and I don't really like it, and I'll ask him to stop, but he won't.
Okay. All right, what kinds of things does he put on your bed?
Like his little stuffed animals. And his laundry sometimes.
Okay, so he puts his laundry sometimes in your bed and the stuffed animals. Do you share a room?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's in there and he doesn't stick to his bed for some reason.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
And
okay.
I don't like it when he puts his stuffed animals on my bed, because he pees in his bed with his stuffed animals in his bed sometimes. I don't want his peed on stuffed animals on my bed.
Okay, I wouldn't either. So that sounds really frustrating. Yeah. So tell me how you feel when he does that. What feelings come up for you?
I get really angry.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of want to punch him in the face.
Okay. All right. So you just want to kind of lash out on him because you're so angry. Okay. All right. Just writing down some notes so I remember later when I lead you through the guided imagery. So I'm going to ask you kind of a funny question. So if you, in your mind, could see that anger as a certain color or object or shape, what would it look like?
It would be red and it would look like flames.
Okay, so red flames. Okay, so you kind of see the anger as red flames. Okay, and so if you were to not be angry, what would happen to those red flames?
They would turn into a pink heart.
Into a pink heart. Okay. Yeah. All right. So the red flames, when you're angry, would turn into a pink heart. And the pink heart means you're feeling how? How are you feeling when you have the pink heart?
Happy.
Happy. Okay. All right. Okay. Great. All right. So, what is one of your favorite TV shows or favorite book or movie?
I don't really have a favorite movie or book or anything for a TV show.
Okay. How about video games or something?
I like cooking show. I like cooking games.
Cooking games? Okay. So is there a certain cooking game that's your favorite?
I don't know what it's called, but it's a game where you can make cakes and cookies and smoothies and stuff like that.
Okay. Cookies.
And you can decorate them.
Cakes and smoothies. Okay, and you can decorate them. So, okay, you were telling me about making the chocolate and strawberry cake. So how does that work?
So you can cut strawberries if you're making a strawberry cake and put it in a bowl with the butter and put flour and stuff like that in. And then For the chocolate cakes, you do the exact same thing, just instead of strawberries, you use chocolate.
Okay, so you actually have to take all the ingredients, put them together in a bowl, and then maybe put them in the pan and put them in the oven and bake it.
You have to stir them with a mixer or something like that.
Okay.
And then you put it in a cake pan and put it in the oven, and you have to set the timer.
Okay. All right, so what's the object of the game? Do you have to make a certain number of cakes?
Basically, the point of the game is to make the customer what they want.
Oh, okay. And so you get points for filling the orders incorrectly. Okay. Do you ever see the customers?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. All right. Okay. So, what's your favorite thing about the game? Why do you like playing it so much?
I really like decorating the cakes because I think it's really fun, and I really like decorating stuff and making it look really pretty.
Yeah. So do you get to pick the different colors?
Sometimes, but not all the time. Like if they just ask for a plain cake, then you can decorate it and get more points if they like it.
Okay. And how do you decorate it? What do you put on the cake?
There's like sprinkles and frosting and stuff like that. And you can also put strawberries on the cake.
Okay. Can you make your own designs on the cake or just like lines and stuff?
You can put your own design sometimes.
Okay.
Not all the time.
So you make cakes and you can make smoothies, right?
And cookies and cupcakes.
And cookies and cupcakes. Cookies, cakes, smoothies. All right. And what about the smoothies? What kind of smoothies?
It depends on what fruits you blend up. Like sometimes you only get to blend up the stuff that they ask for.
It's kind of like you're being an adult in the game and having a job and
sort of
working at a restaurant, kind of. Okay. But you like the creativity of it. You like being able to decorate the cakes, and that's fun to do. Okay.
Me and my sisters are really artistic, and we like decorating and drawing and stuff.
Do you like decorating cakes in real life?
Yes.
Yeah? What do you like better, the game or decorating cakes in real life?
Decorating cakes in the game.
In the game, okay.
Because there's much more stuff to decorate the cakes with.
Yeah, lots of options. Okay. All right.
You just have to buy them with your points.
Oh, okay.
That's the point of getting the points.
So you can get more cooler tools.
Yeah.
Okay. And what about in real life? What do you think needs to happen between you and your brother? What would be an ideal situation?
I would like him to respect my boundaries and stop when I tell him to stop.
Okay. So the first time you ask him, he'd leave his stuff. He would leave his stuffed animals where they need to go. Yeah. Okay. So Amory did a great job of sharing with me what her problem was, her challenge, and details about her favorite video game. She shared with me that she got really frustrated with her brother because he would take his dirty stuffed animals and put them on her bed, and she admitted that when this happened, she just wanted to punch him. And so she wanted to deal with that challenge. How can I make that better? She told me that when she would get angry to her, it was represented by a flame, a red flame. And she said that for the red flame that represented her anger to get better, it needed to turn into a pink heart. She also told me about her baking video game that she loved. She shared things such as, you have to put all the ingredients together. You are filling orders for customers, and when you fill the order, you get points that you can use to buy new cool cake decorating stuff. So what I did is I led her through a guided imagery that I'll just summarize for you here for the sake of time. I had her visualize her brother getting those icky stuffed animals and putting them on her bed, and her feeling frustrated about that. And then I had them, her and her brother kind of just found themselves in this bakery, and she was going ahead and putting ingredients together to bake a cake, and she used the flame to bake that cake. And when the cake was done, she decorated it with a big pink heart, and she gave that cake to her brother, and her brother gave back to her in exchange for her giving him that cake. He gave her a really cool new tool to decorate more cakes with. And I reminded her that still during the guided imagery experience, that she can, whenever she wants, she can close her eyes and visualize herself taking that flame, using it to bake a beautiful cake, and then decorating that beautiful cake with a big pink heart, and in her mind giving it to her brother. And when she does that, then she feels more in control. She feels like she knows more what she needs to do, and that it will help her to stay firm with her boundaries, asking for what she needs, but doing it in a kind way, and really fostering that relationship with her little brother. Some of you might work with an adult to create a metaphorical journey for an adult. So I just want to talk about a few challenges that you might face, because it's actually can be a little bit harder working with adults. One is adults have a harder time getting past the intellect. This is a very symbolic experience, and so especially that question about, what does it look like for you? What color is it? What object might it represent it? Sometimes that can be difficult for adults. Sometimes it can be really easy, but sometimes it can be difficult. So what can be helpful is to tell them, well, if you had a magic wand, what would you use the magic wand? What would happen to that big prickly ball to feel better? It also can be more difficult to work with adults because they might be interested in some of the same things that you're interested in. So maybe a movie that they bring up that they want to explain to you is maybe a movie that you've seen. And so we need to make sure that we don't get too involved bringing our own perceptions of the movie into the experience. We really want to zone into, what is it about this movie that really moves this person that we're working with. So I did this with an adult a little while ago, and she said that she really liked The Notebook. So that's like one of my favorite movies too. So that was an example where I needed to really step back. What I learned about her and the way her mind works is that she's quite a romantic, and that love plays a huge role in her consciousness. So I had to make sure that when I created the metaphorical journey for her, that was a theme in the experience for her. And one more thing, when you work with someone that you're really close to, for example, a spouse, that can have its own challenges just because of that deep relationship that you already have. But I don't discourage it, because it also can be super sweet. It can be a real intimate experience to be able to support your partner in this way. But just be gentle with yourself if you find it a little bit challenging because of your close relationship. So I just wanted to point that out, but not to discourage you, just to make sure that you're gentle with yourself. If you have any questions about this process for your certification, please don't hesitate to email me or text me. I'd be happy to answer your questions. There are a lot of guided imagery experiences that I have not included in this video course, but are in my book. So I want to go ahead and summarize them and tell you a little bit about them so you feel comfortable using them. So I'm looking at the table of contents of Sensational Meditation for Children, and starting in chapter 8 is where I have the scripts for the different meditations. Chapter 8 is called Mindfulness and Other Centering Meditations. So a lot of these experiences I wouldn't categorize as guided imagery. They're more mindfulness, which is a completely different approach, and I should probably address that. Mindfulness is about focusing on what is going on in the present moment. What are we hearing right now? What are we feeling in our body right now? If our eyes are open, what are we seeing? What are the details that we're seeing? If our eyes are closed, what do the back of our eyelids look like? We can actually do that. We can see, that's kind of like this little light coming in. That's something that we can become mindful of. Being mindful of the breath. Guided imagery is something very different. Guided imagery is closing our eyes and inviting something new, something that's not necessarily going on in our world at the time, where it's creating scenes, working with symbols, very different than mindfulness. So I just want to be very clear about that. I do teach a course in teaching mindfulness to children, which is an excellent training as well, but completely different. So in the chapter 8, mindfulness and other centering meditations, not too much guided imagery here, although the sleepy cloud meditation I would consider to be guided imagery. It's based on progressive relaxation, and it's great for kids who are having a hard time sleeping. And then the grounding cord meditation is in this chapter as well, which we went over. The next chapter, chapter 9, Healing My Body, I go over the mind-body connection. There's a meditation in there called What Does My Body Have to Say? And I would consider this guided imagery because you're going ahead and you're lying down usually and kind of asking the different parts of your body what they need. And then the 2 chakra meditations are in this chapter. And so we did the strengthening the chakras meditation. We did not do cleaning the chakras meditation. That's another really great guided imagery experience. Chapter 10, we've got lots of guided imagery here. And we actually didn't do any of these in this course. So please don't hesitate to use some of these for your certification video. The fudge swirl meditation is excellent guided imagery. That works hand in hand with the grounding cord. The grounding cord is more about the root chakra and letting go, and the fudge swirl is about bringing in energy into the crown chakra. Healing heart meditation, definitely a powerful guided imagery in which we are working a lot with the heart chakra and sharing healing and forgiveness energy with someone else, someone that we're in conflict with. A really good experience for teens going through some really intense breakup or issue with a friend. I highly recommend that. So those would be the guided imagery meditations in chapter 10. And chapter 11, again, rich in guided imagery. We did the happy tree meditation. We did not do the inside friends meditation. That is another good example of guided imagery in that it's a little bit more advanced than some of the others. You are interacting with different parts of yourself and understanding yourself in a better way. That's another good one for teens or tweens. And the time machine meditation is in chapter 11, which we did do. If you're interested in teaching guided imagery in schools, I highly recommend contacting the school counselor. They would probably love to get you into the school and do some work with their students. School counselors often have social groups. For example, they might meet with 5 or 6 children at a time, either during the school day or during classes or during lunch. And they would probably love for you to go in there and lead their group through a guided imagery experience. Some great examples would be the grounding cord meditation would be perfect to do in a school. even though what does my body have to say, that would be something healing you could do in the school. The fudge swirl would be a great example, and the happy tree meditation and the time machine meditation. Those are all good guided imagery experiences from my book that would be appropriate for school, because some just aren't as appropriate. Working with the chakras, a lot of schools that might not work as well, because that does kind of conflict a little bit with religion. As working with the chakras does come from a religion, so that can be difficult. You might also consider getting a hold of the school's after-school program and setting up a class. You could even call it a meditation class, and doing some of these same meditations on a weekly basis. For example, in the class, maybe doing a new meditation each week, or contacting the principal directly. They might have some need for this kind of work in the school, or if you know a teacher, maybe the teacher can lead you into a certain direction, or possibly work with that particular teacher's class. If you are teaching in a yoga studio, or you want to, these chakra meditations are perfect for teaching in a yoga studio. You can incorporate them with yoga movements as well. And even some of these New Thought churches might be a good avenue for you to come in on Sundays and work with their Sunday school, doing some of these meditations. And even some of these residential facilities that have therapeutic programs, getting in there and working with them, talking to, for example, a therapist to work your way in, or maybe the director. And hospitals, too. You can contact hospitals. If you can get a hold of a life specialist, might be able to pull you into the hospital and working with the kids before and after surgery to help them with stress and pain. So the sky's the limit. There's so many different avenues that you could take to work with children and share these guided imagery techniques with them. And if you're a therapist yourself, super easy to incorporate these guided imagery experiences with your patients that you're already working with, especially students that are dealing with trauma. Such an excellent way to help them work through trauma, whether it's divorce, someone dying, abuse. Can be very helpful, and stress, working with children that are having some difficulty with stress. Students who are on the spectrum, they have a lot of stress that they have to deal with, really interfacing with everything that's going on in this world. So guided imagery is such a great way to support children who are on the spectrum. Students who have ADHD, they will benefit greatly from learning these guided imagery techniques. And especially the metaphorical journey is really great for students who have ADHD, because you can specialize it for them around their interests. And so it helps them really pay attention and stay in the experience if it's something that really interests them. The grounding cord meditation is really great for ADHD, just letting go of all that stuff that's in their mind, and letting it move right through. In the chapter called Tips for Success, which is chapter 5, under the section Sample Meditation Time Outline, which is on page 63, shares the outline that you'll need to follow for your certification, or if you don't go for your certification, an outline that you can follow to lead a child one-on-one through a guided imagery experience, the whole session, or a group of children, for example, a class. And following the outline for the certification is important because it helps me see that you've hit all of the points that you need to hit to get certified, and it helps you make sure that you hit all of the points that you need to hit to get certified. So it's really a win-win situation, and so it's really important that you follow the outline when you teach your class to get certified. I won't be able to certify you if you don't follow these guidelines and do it in a certain way. The first step is checking in, and that involves finding out what the kids' names are if you don't know them, what their ages are, asking them, maybe you're sitting in a circle and one by one they're sharing that, and checking what they're feeling. So how are you feeling about being in this class today, or how are you feeling about us sitting down here together and doing some guided imagery? It's important to get a pulse on what's going on there so you can make any adjustments that you need to make to help that child feel more comfortable. Because if the child doesn't feel comfortable and isn't relaxed, then it's not going to be successful, right? As successful. So it is important that we check in and see how they're feeling. You never know where they've come from. If they're not your own child and they're getting dropped off, they might have just come from something kind of intense situation that happened in their family. They might not have gotten much sleep the night before. So that's a good time. The checking in time is a good way for us to make some determinations about how are they doing, and to know how we need to support that space for them with their guided imagery experience. The next step is called a fun activity. I like to have the kids laughing in some way within 15 minutes of our meeting. So whether it's a class or working one-on-one with a child, the laughter really helps the kids just be at ease and to get into that space of feeling comfortable and relaxed. When I teach classes, I like to do the Let Go Hokey Pokey. It's a little hokey, it's a little fun, and it gets everyone laughing. So I'm going to go ahead and show this video that shows me leading this with a group of kids. But basically what we do is we get in a circle, we're standing, and instead of doing the Let Go Hokey, instead of doing the Hokey Pokey, which is an American tradition I found out, so if you're watching this from another country, you might need to watch it on YouTube. This is not something that maybe you grew up with, but a lot of us have done the Hokey Pokey, which you stand in a circle and you put your right hand in and you shake it all about, take your right hand out and do the Hokey Pokey, and that's what it's all about. So it's a little bit of a song and dance, but what we do is instead of maybe necessarily putting that certain body part in the circle and taking it out of the circle, is we put something in the circle that we just want to let go of, that we just don't want to really think about right now. And it can be like feeling like you have to clean your house, feeling like you have to do homework, things like that. And we are in a circle, and one by one the children put in what they want, and then we all sing the song together for that child. So go ahead and watch the video and see what you think. But there are lots of other activities that you could do to get the kids loosened up at the beginning of your class, and I completely invite you to do whatever works for you. And it's nice if it aligns with the theme of your class, but if nothing else, if it's just fun and exciting, then there you go. So what we're going to do is, instead of putting our right foot in and taking our right foot out, we're going to put something in that's on our minds right now that we don't really want to think about. Okay, so first, we're all going to share about something that's on our minds that we don't really want to think about right now. Except Spencer had his hand raised. What is it that you want to let go of?
What we're doing right now.
Okay, can we put that in one word? What could be one word about what we're doing right now? Want to think about it? Maybe you want to say the word video? About the video? Okay, so you want to let go of this idea of the video. Great, okay. Jane has her hand up. What is it that you want to think? The video too? Okay. Emily, how about you?
Bruised tailbone.
A bruised tailbone. It probably hurts, doesn't it? Yeah. Put your bruised tailbone in, take your bruised tailbone out, put your bruised tailbone in, and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about. Face turn, video, right? Okay, put the video in, take the video out, put the video in, and you shake it all about. You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about.
I'm going to give you a minute to think about it. Maybe it's a thought that's stuck in there, or a feeling, or a worry, or a concern. And you can say it aloud when you put it in the basket, or you can just show us with your body that you're putting it in the basket. That's your choice. Okay, so take a minute to think. All right. Would someone like to begin? Oh, we have we don't have a shy group. Okay, let's start with Sarisa. You begin, and we'll just go this way. Okay, you're gonna shake it off. Just shake it up. All right.
I have to do my homework.
Oh, there it goes, right in the basket. Ooh, I heard it go plunk. All right. And Suhani?
I have to do art.
Oh, okay, perfect. Well, how do you feel now that you've shaken them off?
Good.
A little lighter?
Yes.
I'm going to take this.
You might be wondering if we are beginning a meditation class with something fun and we're jumping around and we're making noise and we're getting excited, how do we then move into a more relaxed, quiet space to do guided imagery? So let's talk about some transitions. There's just simply changing your voice. So if you're talking and you're really excited and you're leading the let go hokey pokey or whatever it is, and then you soften your voice, you speak more slowly, and changing your voice can help the children transition into something more quiet. If the children are younger, you could have them pretend that they're melting into their yoga mats or wherever they're sitting. So that could be a nice transition that you could lead them through. And also the little ones might like to tiptoe. You could have them tiptoe around the circle till they get back to their place, and being quiet little mice getting back to your place. So just some ideas. I'm sure you have some of your own on how to transition from that fun, exciting activity to a quiet moment. The next step is let's talk about the word meditation. I use the word meditation interchangeably quite a bit with guided imagery. I consider guided imagery to be a type of meditation. So when you're teaching your class, if it's a meditation class, I'm doing quotes, air quotes here, if it's a meditation class and you are teaching these guided imagery experiences within your class, then you could follow this and have the kids talk about the definition of meditation, which there's really so many different definitions of meditation, right? Because there's so many different ways that we meditate. So if you're leaning toward the guided imagery experience, you might share that the definition of meditation is closing our minds and thinking about something on purpose. But at any rate, it's nice to let the kids come up with their definition, so they feel like they really own it, and it's okay if they're all just slightly different. It's also nice to get an idea of what kids already know about meditation, so asking that question before you offer your definition of, what does meditation mean? What do you know about meditation? And then kind of guiding that toward a definition that works for you and in your class. But maybe you're not using the word meditation at all. Maybe you're strictly teaching guided imagery, and that's fine. So this would be the part in the video when you would address that with the child and talk about, what does guided imagery mean, and explaining that it has to work. It works with the senses, right? We close our eyes and we use those 5 inner senses, inner sense of sight, inner sense of hearing, inner sense of feeling, and possibly even taste and smell, to create an experience that offers a benefit, that helps a child move through something to get to a better place. The next step is seeing pictures in our head. And here we want to have the students get their feet wet a little bit before you actually lead them through the main guided imagery experience, so they kind of have a feel for what it's going to be like. So what I do is I just have the students close their eyes and imagine their bedroom. What do they see in their bedroom? What do they hear in their bedroom? And very quickly, just maybe 30 seconds, not long. And if you're working with a group of children, I'll say, once you see your bedroom and you can see the different things in your bedroom, go ahead and raise your hand. And then maybe there's one child who hasn't raised their hand yet. Maybe they're not really seeing the things in their bedroom. And then I would go into some other terms like, well, do you have a sense that you're in your bedroom? Is there anything that you can hear in your bedroom? And then they'll usually tune into that and raise their hand. And then I'll have everybody open their eyes once we've all gotten there. And then afterwards, I usually conduct a little bit of a discussion about the experience and ask them questions like, well, if our eyes were closed, we're not in our bedroom, how did we see it? How did we see our bedroom? And that can open up to some great talk about using our imagination, using our memories. Sometimes we'll get into the brow chakra if that's appropriate, using that third eye to see these images in our minds that we're going to use with guided imagery.
Your eyes, and I want you to picture your bedrooms, okay? And look at your bed and whatever's on your bed, the bedspread, the blankets. You might have pillows on your bed, stuffed animals. And then look around your room. Do you have any special pictures on the walls? Or any special furniture? Look at the furniture in your room. Okay. And even look at the window in your room. Do you have one window, 2 windows? Is there lots of sunlight coming in? Okay, so slowly open your eyes. Great. You closed your eyes and you were able to see your bedrooms. How did that happen? Why do you think you were able to do that?
Because you were really thinking about it and going through what's in there.
Okay. Yes.
Because it's your house and you know like lots of stuff about your house.
So it's familiar to you? Yes.
We're really concentrating on that one thing. We're not thinking about anything else.
What happens when you close your eyes and you see those pictures? Yes.
You're thinking about it really good.
You are thinking about it really good, yes. And you're using your imagination. It's what we call one of your inner senses. You have your outer senses, seeing and hearing and tasting and touching and smelling. And you have, in one of your inner senses is your imagination. You can close your eyes and you can see pictures. That's pretty cool, huh? And that's a part of meditation, the kind of meditation that we're going to be doing today.
If you are doing the meditation, the talking, what does my body have to say meditation, where you're actually kind of interacting with the different parts of your body and asking them what they need, then you might, and what I've done in the past is, instead of doing this seeing pictures in your head activity, is I'll put something in the center of the circle, for example, a plant or a stuffed animal, and I'll have the kids close their eyes and ask the stuffed animal or plant a question and just kind of see what they hear. So that kind of is a good practice into that inner sense of hearing. Number 5, special topic. This would be when you would introduce whatever the subject is that you're teaching for that class. For example, if it's grounding, you might talk a little bit about grounding. What is important is to get the students talking, and so we can do that by asking questions and getting them involved in discovering what grounding is. For example, you might ask them what it feels like to not be grounded, to not feel like themselves, to not feel strong in who they are, and then ask them what it feels like to be grounded, to feel centered, and to feel really confident in who you are. This is also a time to do a short demonstration with grounding. I often take a container with dried beans in it, and I pour the dried beans out about a foot or so from the floor, and the children watch the beans fall into another container, and so that represents what it can sound and feel like and look like when they're working with their grounding cord and letting things go down their grounding cord. This isn't a time to go into real formal definitions about things and get really intellectual. That's better to talk about those kinds of things after they've experienced the meditation, when they have more of a frame of reference. This is another great demonstration to do before any type of meditation that has to do with grounding. And so what we have here are 2 students who are partners. One student stands there, doesn't do anything in particular, and the other student pushes the other student on the arm right below the shoulder. And then the student getting pushed, well, they both just kind of notice how the body reacted to that. And then the student that's getting pushed goes ahead and imagines their grounding cords connected to their root chakra, goes down through the floor, through the building, down into the earth, all the way through to the center of the planet, and they just really feel that connection. And then the student that did the pushing just goes ahead and does the same type of push, and then that student's body will react differently, and they can both notice that difference, how differently our body reacts when we are so grounded. And then they switch and repeat, having the person that was originally pushing is now the one that gets pushed, and then they can feel that from that perspective as well. It's a great way to quickly help students understand how powerful this meditation is and how it affects us on so many different levels. Number 6, encourage your child to choose her own meditation posture. When I'm working with a class and leading them, what I like to do before the meditation is to ask the students what position do they like to put their bodies in when they meditate. And I'll get different answers. You know, someone might say, oh, I like to sit with my arms placed on my knees in a cross-legged style. And I say, okay, great, let's all try that. And then all of us in the class will sit in that position for 15 or 30 seconds. And then I'll say, who else has another idea of how they like to position their body during meditation? And then somebody might say, well, I like to lie down. And I say, okay, let's all practice that, and we'll lie down for about 15 seconds, 30 seconds to just practice that position. So that's one way that you can go about that. But it's important to address their bodies and how their bodies will be during the meditation. I like to let the children make the final choice, and they get to decide how to position their body, unless it's a certain meditation. But most of the meditations, just any position is fine. The students that I work with, generally they really like to lie down, so I like to make sure there's plenty of room for them to lie down, and for that reason I'll have the children lie down and make snow angels and make sure that they can't touch anybody with their feet in their hands when they're making the snow angels on the ground, and then that means there's enough room between everybody, because the kids will move around during their meditation, so it's good that they have their own space so they don't move into anybody else. Step number 7 is leading the meditation or leading the guided imagery experience. For the certification, you do need to choose one of the ones that I mentioned when I went over into the table of contents and mentioned all the guided imagery type meditations. So you would need to choose one of those. If not, you would need to email me and email me the script of the meditation that you plan to use so I can approve that. And that's just to make sure that everything goes well for you and make sure you get your certification. So that's to help you. So when you're leading the meditation, one of the important things to consider is your pace. How quickly, how slowly are you speaking? With children, you don't want to go too slowly, but of course you don't want to go too fast either, because they need to experience what it is that they're doing in their guided imagery. But it is good to know that children can experience meditation at lightning speed. They really can. So really careful not to go way too slow, otherwise they might get a little agitated and start moving around a little bit more. So I think the pace that I led you through the meditations during this course is a good pace. If I were leading adults, I wouldn't go as quickly as I did with you. You might have even felt like, wow, seems like she's going a little bit too fast for me. And that would be normal because it was a little bit too quick for adults, but I wanted to go at a speed that you would be using with the children so I could model that for you. Their eyes usually, again, doesn't affect their experience. If you want to use eye pillows, that can help. I often just ask my students to just hold their hands over their eyes like that while they're meditating. Just helps them keep their eyes closed, especially for the young kids like 5, 6, 7 years old. That's helpful. Another thing is sometimes they'll speak during their meditation, and when that happens, I remind them that we'll have a time that we'll all share with one another what we experience. So let's just wait until then to voice that. If you're in a group of kids, right? Because if someone's speaking, and the other people aren't meditating, sometimes that can be distracting. But if a student says something here and there, it's usually not a big deal. It doesn't ruin the experience for everybody else. The next step is invite your child to talk about her meditation experience. So this is when you're going to lead the discussion, and after every meditation in my book, I have a list of questions that help facilitate that discussion. So when you're teaching your class, you might pick one of those questions and have everyone talk about it, or you might pick a couple, or you might say all of the questions and have the students choose which one they want to answer, or simply saying, tell me about your experience today with that meditation, which is what I do with you on your response template. It's just, tell me about your experience, not a specific question. So any of that is perfectly fine for the discussion. What's important about the discussion is that the child is able to just share without being interrupted by other children. They're able to share without us jumping in and making judgments or predictions or interpretation of their experience. And the way we respond to what they share is important. We want to be careful of, maybe not getting like really excited about one person's share and then the next person, maybe we don't show that same excitement. The kids really pick up on that, so I try to be really consistent with the way I respond after everybody shares. I try to respond with a lot of gratitude, really thank you for sharing that, as opposed to more like, oh, that you did such a, that was really great. Just more of a consistent response of thank you so much for sharing all that. And the reason that the sharing is important is because it gives them time to articulate their experience, which helps them process their experience more and can oftentimes help them get more out of the experience. They go through the guided imagery, something really important comes up, and they go off and do something, and they forget about an important aspect of what came up. But if we have that time for them to sit and talk about it, they can bring that back, and they can process it more and have a deeper understanding of what happened, and to pay attention to some of those things that were really important that came up, because we can come up with a lot of solutions through guided imagery. In addition to the healing that's just taking place in real time, we can, after the fact, be aware of those solutions and incorporate those solutions into the world, into our life. So this is also a good time to talk to the child about, how can we incorporate that solution into your life? What actions can you take? The next step, number 9, what did we do that for? This is a great opportunity for the child to see the practicality, the benefit of what they just did, and how they can apply that benefit on their own later. So if you're their meditation teacher and not their parent, then you're not always going to be there to help them use this meditation. So if we ask them, what was the purpose of that? Why did we do that? And they come up with an answer. Well, we did that because I know now if I get angry, how I can handle my anger, for example. They might come up with that answer. Then they know that in the future, if they get angry, that they can use this same guided imagery even on their own, even without you. They can go in their room and close the door and close their eyes and lead themselves through the experience. They might not remember every single detail that you led when you read it, but they can remember some of the key points and lead them through themselves through that experience, and deal with that anger if that's maybe something that came up for them for a benefit. The grounding cord meditation, really good for ADHD and any of us who are kind of getting sidetracked and unfocused. Then they know that they can just go, even in school, they can just close their eyes and imagine that grounding cord. So during this time of the class, we really want to make that connection, help them make that connection, and support them in telling them this is something that you can do after this class. You can go forth and use this same experience to help you with that. So the next time you get angry, you can use this guided imagery experience. And I like to try to get a fairly specific answer from the kids. So if I'm teaching a class, I'll go around and one by one, each child will answer the question of, what did we do that for? And if they say, oh, we did it to help me feel better, that's not really specific enough of an answer. I will say, well, what might you need to address that you need to feel better? When is the time that maybe you're feeling bad that you could use this meditation? And they say, well, okay, next time when my dad goes out of town, I get sad when my dad leaves and goes out of town on a business trip. So that's something specific. And she said, okay, great. So next time that happens, when your dad's leaving or gone on a business trip, you know that you can use this meditation to help you feel better.
How could you see you using this meditation at another time? When would be another time that you could use the meditation to help you? Ayushma?
When you have lots of thoughts going through your head and you just need like a time to relax, or when you're taking a big test.
Ah, so before the test.
Yes.
When you're in a fight, you could just relax.
So maybe a fight with one of your brothers or sisters?
Yeah.
Brother, okay, maybe just quietly go into your bedroom and close the door and feel that fudge swirl just moving through you, the earth and the sky energies all blending inside. Yes.
After like I'm done cleaning my room, I can relax in my bed.
Absolutely.
The last step, step number 10, is offer a creative project to support your child's meditation. This can be as easy as giving all the children a piece of paper and some markers, and they can draw something that they experienced during their guided imagery session. You can get more complicated. You can bring in clay. You can bring in paint and have the children paint. Create their very own grounding cords with things coming off of them, which represent things moving down their grounding cord. At the end of each chapter, I offer some ideas for some art projects that go along with some of the meditations. I'm on page 122 at the end of the chapter, Renewing Spirit, and I offer an example for a project after the fudge swirl meditation. So this involves working with glitter, which is good to have a box, like the top of a paper ream box is best. You have those big boxes that all of your reams of paper come in, and then the top has like a 3-inch lip all around the top, and so using that top as a box to place paper in and putting glue on the paper and then pouring the glitter on the glue and then moving the paper around to make sure the glue is all covered in glitter, and then you can pour the glitter into the box and let it dry. So for the fudge swirl meditation, they might want to take a piece of paper and draw themselves and then draw their ball of energy above their head and then move that piece of paper into the glitter box and putting glue on the ball of energy to show what that looked like to them, and then pouring glitter on the glue so that can make a nice piece of art to represent their experience with a fudge swirl. What's really nice about incorporating the art at the end of the experience is they have something physical that represents something pretty abstract, right? Something they experienced. They've got that picture up on their wall that helps them remember how to do it, and they can simply go in there into their room and sit and do the guided imagery based on what they created. So it's a really great way to help them remember how to do the experience on their own. It's also another great way for them to process their experience more. I know that they already talked about it, which helped them process it, but the actually doing the art is another opportunity for them to go through again what their experience was and zone in on some of those highlights, what was important, and really making it a reality for them and learning its benefits and how it works. At the end of each chapter, I also have some examples for some games that the children can do to support the guided imagery experiences. And so this is really good for that step that I went over about have a fun activity right in the start of your class. For example, at the same chapter 10, at the end of chapter 10 on page 122, I have the Hug Monster game, which is the students are all standing around. It's good if you have at least 4 kids playing this game, and every kid gets a chance to be the Hug Monster, and when you're the Hug Monster, you have 5 seconds to hug as many kids as you can, and so you keep track how many hugs that child gave, and then it's the next person's turn, and then 5 seconds they get as many hugs, and then the idea is to add up all the hugs and how many hugs could you all give together. It's pretty fun. Another one that I have here is my favorite thing to do charade, them all taking turns, acting out something that they love to do, and then having the other kids there guess, try to figure out what it is that they're doing. This aligns really well with the fudge swirl meditation as well, because you're putting into that ball of energy things that you love. So it helps them start to think about what is it that you really like to do, what makes you happy. When you're doing your video, you don't need to video the entire art project because that can take some time. So if you just want to share some of the video at the end showing what the children have created, that's great. Also, doing writing at the end of the meditation class is really helpful, especially for the older kids. Writing some poetry, that might be their creative project to support their experience, or journaling. Even with the younger kids, I might have them write down the steps to the guided imagery experience in their own words. You know, what did we do first? What did we do after that? What did we do? And again, that's a piece of paper that they can take home. It's in their own words, helping them remember how to do the guided imagery experience. And you can do this, you know, along with the art project. Like if some of the kids get done with their art project early, or everybody does it afterwards. Definitely not a requirement for the certification to do the writing, but it's really nice. It's something that I like to do with my students. But doing the creative project is a requirement. So there needs to be some type of creative project at the end of your class. I have a video of students sharing about their meditation experience and doing some artwork. So I'll go ahead and show that for you now. What I'd like you to do is each one of you could tell me about your experience with that meditation. I had her hand up first. You go ahead first.
Lots and lots of color and a bunch of swirls.
Great. And where did you see the colors and swirls?
I just saw it.
You saw it? Okay. All right. Emily, how about you? What did you experience during that meditation?
Well, I saw lots of colors, like all mixing together, and it made different colors.
Wonderful. And what were those colors that were mixing together?
It was like different colors, and they were together, and then it made new colors.
Oh, okay. Great. So you pull that energy in from above. Jaden, how about you? What did you experience?
Well, I saw, like, I was imagining the spirit energy, and it was orange in my mind's eye. And I just kind of followed it in my mind's eye down, and then through the floor, like you explained.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Ariana, what did you experience during that meditation? Same thing as Emily? Yeah. Okay.
Any of you see any animals or plants nearby when you were feeling that earth energy? What kind of animals or plants did you see? Ayushma?
I saw birds,
Okay, so they were right there bringing that earth energy to you?
and they were really, really big red flowers everywhere.
Oh, wow. Yes.
I
Teresa?
saw robins, and I saw oak trees. I saw deer. I saw lots of different types of animals.
You had a lot of special helpers. Did you see any animals or plants? What did you see?
I saw, like, I was going outside and I saw some bunnies, baby bunnies,
Oh, sweet.
and butterflies.
Okay.
This really happened for real life.
Say that again?
It was real.
It was real to you, so you really felt their presence. Absolutely. Wow, we have some very visual, beautiful pictures that you've created for me, so I can really have a sense of what you experience.
It felt like grass blowing in the wind.
Okay. Yes.
It also felt like I was like in space. I put a kickstand on it. I can make something cooler than this. Like my map.
Oh yeah, that's a great map.
I like doing maps. Hey. Okay. Wanna follow my map?
Was this when we were doing the earth energy?
Okay, we saw it.
That was your ball of light that you filled with family and...
This is my picture, and I drew a flower and some birds around it because that's what I learned when we were talking about earth energy, and this is what I pictured.
Hi, this is what I drew, and this is the ball of light we were talking about earlier.
Oh, my kid.
And it's filled with all my happy
Break it
thoughts.
up for you.
This is me, and this is two of the butterflies, and this is the sun. I draw this because I pictured it in my head.
So this video is a little more on the boring side, right? Because we have to go over all of these points for getting your certification. So I hope you like the background. I tried to choose something that was a little exciting to counteract some of this boring stuff. But here we go. Let's keep going. We need to go over the requirements for the class video for when you're recording your video. So what you'll do is you will record it probably using your phone and then you will upload it to YouTube. When you upload it to YouTube, you'll make it unlisted, which means that anyone who has the link to the video can view the video. That's seems to be the best way for my students to share it with me. If you make it private and email it to me, sometimes that doesn't work, but you're welcome to do that. But the easiest thing is to make it unlisted, meaning nobody can see that video unless they have the link, and then go ahead and send me the link to that video. So if you go ahead and look at your requirements for class video sheet, number 1 says your class should have at least 3 children. Your own children can be in it, but you need to have at least 1 child there that's not your own child. And I don't recommend that you have more than 10 children in your class for certification, just so it's a little bit easier to manage. If you need to have more than 10, if you could just go ahead and contact me and let me know the situation, that would be great. The second point says you need to follow the sample meditation time outline, which is in the book, which we just went through all those 10 steps, you know, starting out with checking in and the fun activity, and the very last step being the art project. And number 3, if you wish to use a meditation not in the book, then go ahead and have me look it over in advance, which I mentioned. And so, so this is really important about the recording of the video. Whoever's recording it, if they're holding the phone, if you don't have it on a tripod, if they could not move it around too much, they could keep it pretty stable, and then if they're panning, just pan slowly around. I've had videos where there's just lots of panning, and it's actually can make me motion sickness. Like I used to live in this house with this like loft area where I used to watch the videos, and then sometimes I used to feel like I need to go across the railing, and anyway, never actually happened, but it did make me feel uncomfortable. So yeah, be careful with the panning, and don't have the camera more than about 8 feet from the group, and that's so it can pick up the audio really well. It's actually more important for me to hear what's going on than necessarily to see what's going on. So the audio needs to be really good. Number 3, absolutely no clipping of the video. A couple times I've had students who maybe they give the video to one of their teenagers and they chop it all up and put transitions and make it all fancy. Don't do that, please. I'd like to see your class from start to finish, just rolling all through it. If something comes up, I'd like to see how you handle it. If the dog gets loose and runs through the middle of the class, that's fine. You know, I'd like to see how you handle that, you know, because things like that are going to happen when you're teaching. So please don't feel like you need to edit that stuff out. Totally fine. I know how life is, and it just adds to the experience of me seeing how you're teaching. So number 4, I mentioned the same thing about the audio. The audio needs to be really good, so make sure that you listen to it and that we can hear it really well. You want to also make sure you're teaching in a place that's not like really loud, a lot of background noise, because it's just going to be really difficult for me to hear you teaching. And number 5, it says you don't have to video the entire art project, right? So that can go on for maybe 20 minutes. I don't need to see all that. If you just want to video the part where you are introducing it and explaining it to the kids, and then maybe the end where you are, the kids are showing you what they finished up with, you know, what they created. So if there's a break in the video there, that's totally fine. It's good to complete the video within 60 days of you finishing this last video. If you need longer than that, if you could just email me, and so we can arrange something. You know, maybe something comes up for you. And you want to email all your materials to sarah.vallely@outlook.com. This checklist is really important, the certification checklist. This is something that you would probably want to look through soon. Before you get really involved in putting all your certification materials together, go ahead and read through this checklist. The first part has to do with your materials, how you handle your materials. I have sent all my materials in one email or in one package. I hardly ever get packages anymore. I used to get videotapes and CDs and things like that, but so that's probably not going to pertain to you. But in one email, if you send the video link in one email, and then you send the checklist, you send the response template in another email, and then the essay in a third email, I might not be organized enough to keep all that together. I have a lot of students. So it really needs to all be in one email. So don't feel like, oh, I've gotten the essay done now, let's get that off to Sarah right away. I don't need anything in advance. Just it's best if everything's together, because I look at everything all at once anyway. So in that email, you would have your essay attached to it. You would have your response template attached to it. And in the email, you will have a link to the YouTube video, and you will also explain in the email how you paid for the certification, whether you paid through PayPal or you sent me a check. If you could let me know that inside the email. And here it says I followed the sample class outline. So we've talked a lot about that. I have used YouTube and have selected unlisted and sent me the link. And my essay is at least 500 words and no more than 1,000 words. Remember, that's just a simple response to something that moved you in the book Sensational Meditation for Children, which you are to read that entire book for the certification. And then there might be just a part of that book that you enjoyed a little bit more than some of the other parts, and you can just write about that. You know, how did that affect you? How did that make you think about something a little bit differently? How is that something that you're going to incorporate in with the children that you are working with? And like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect grammar and all of that. I'm not going to be looking for that. More of a journal entry is totally fine for the essay. And my video is a minimum of 30 minutes, probably longer. So it usually takes me about 45 minutes to an hour to get through the entire class, to go through all those 10 steps in the meditation time outline. And that includes the art project. The art project can take 15, 20 minutes right there. So your video should not be any less than 30 minutes. If not, it's probably more. 35, 40, 45 minutes is probably how long your video will be. So if it's under 30 minutes, there's probably a good chance you're not going to get certified, because you probably didn't go over everything that you needed to go over, because it's really impossible to do in that short amount of a time. All my responses for the 3 classes are in one document, and I've followed the template. So it is the guided imagery response template, and you are going to take a look at the journal entries that you made during the videos, and then go ahead and answer those questions about how you experienced the guided imagery that I personally led you through in this class, and you responding with your own experience and how you experienced it. In those responses, you don't want to talk about how a child might experience it or how you are going to lead a child through it. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for you and your experience. How did you experience it? Well, something personal. What was it that that you saw? What did you hear? What did you feel? And so forth. All right. And all my responses are in one document. Once I had a student who divided up the document and made a separate document for each response. Please don't do that. Just as the document is, that one document, you can put all of your answers in there. All right, so those are some details about the actual materials. The next section is the video environment. All the students in my class have permission to be in the video, so I want to make sure that's checked off. The video takes place in a quiet environment. For example, in a loud daycare center would probably not be a good place for the video. Doing the video right in your own living room is completely fine, and honestly, that's the majority of my students, how they do it. It's just really simple. Just invite some kids over in your living room and teach the class, and just show me that you know how to do all of these steps that I'm asking you to do. I conducted a creative project at the end of my class, so that is required. I have viewed the video and I can see myself clearly. You don't want to shoot the whole video and your back is to the camera the entire time, right? Or maybe you're kind of off center and the video is just of the kids. You need to be in the video. I'm looking at you, I'm looking at how you are teaching, so it's really important that you are a prominent part of that video. It's also good for me to see the kids as well, so I know how they are responding to your teaching and how they're going through. If I use a mobile device, I held the phone horizontally. Please do that if you're using your phone horizontal. It comes out a lot better. I have viewed the video and hear myself clearly, and I can hear the children speaking clearly. And if you are taking this course from another country and you and the children that are in the video are speaking another language, that is completely fine. But I do need a transcript. So after you do the video, I would need you to type out in English, translated word by word, what everybody said in the video, so I can look at that transcript while I'm watching the video. I've had several students that have gotten certified this way. It's completely fine. All right, and then the last section here on the meditation, the checklist here, the certification checklist, is my meditation lesson. So this pertains to how you put together your lesson that you're teaching to the students. So the first 2 points are for the mindfulness. I won't go over that. For the guided imagery, I have used one of the following meditations, either the Sleepy Cloud, Grounding Cord, What Does My Body Have to Say, Strong Chakras, Clean Chakras, Fudge Swirl, Healing Heart, Happy Tree, Inside Friends, or the Time Machine Meditation. So you have a lot of different options there. Some of these we did in the course, some we did not, but as long as it's on that list, you'll be able to use that meditation for your certification. My class is 100% dedicated to the guidelines, meaning those 10 steps in the sample meditation time outline. I mention this because sometimes people will try to get certified within their own class that they've already established, like maybe they're already teaching a class in a school, or maybe they're already teaching a yoga class, and so you already have certain steps that you do, and so trying to get the steps that I need you to do plus the ones that you already do, it can set you up for not as much success. I have had a few situations where people have not gotten certified because it just didn't work. So I recommend that you don't teach it within a class that you already have set up, that you're already teaching. But once in a while it works. So if it's something you want to email me ahead of time and talk about, that's fine. And I have at least 45 minutes of class time available and dedicated to